6 a.m. on Monday changed everything for me. I stepped outside ready for the toughest workday of the season and found Karen standing by her brand new Bentley, parked dead center across both my barn doors like a $200,000 roadblock. The smug satisfaction on her face made my blood run cold. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was revenge, planned and precise. And she had no idea what she'd unleashed. When you corner a farmer who's got everything on the line, the cost of crossing him climbs fast. If you've ever been pushed too far by someone who thought they had all the power, drop a comment. I've farmed for 30 years. I've seen odd things, but this felt deliberate in a way that made my skin prickle. Karen Sullivan stood beside that silver Bentley like she'd planted it there to prove a point. Designer workout gear, phone in hand, always performing the part of the HOA queen. Her presidency felt less like service and more like a license to control everyone around her. But today she seemed different, collected, patient, savoring the moment rather than buzzing with clipboards and violation notices the way she usually did. Rebecca Stone was already out walking her dog, phone up like she was filming for her neighborhood feed, always hunting for safety issues since her husband's accident. "Too many accidents happen here," she called, voice oddly smug. It made my skin crawl. "Morning, Tom," Karen called, that practiced smile stretching across her face. Beautiful day for deadlines. The way she said deadlines set every alarm in my head off. In the 2 years since her son Danny died, Karen had poured her grief into becoming the most hostile HOA president in the county, targeting farmers, piling on rules, testing boundaries. But whatever this morning was, it felt personal. I circled the Bentley looking for a gap to move my equipment. The barn doors were sealed, lined up perfectly on the property line like she'd measured the angles with a survey level. "Karen, you're blocking my barn," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Are you serious?" "Am I?" she asked, glancing at the car like it wasn't hers, then clutching a business card with hands that trembled just a little. "Sorry, still getting used to parking a car like this. Just picked her up yesterday." The line sounded scripted, like she'd practiced the cadence in a mirror. Old Pete waved as he headed for coffee. "Harvest season kicking in," he called. Karen snapped her head to him so quickly I thought she'd get whiplash. Her fixation on protocols told me this wasn't casual small talk. I kept my tone flat. "Just the usual work, Pete." Her smile returned, but sharpened. I felt the chill of it sink in. Then my phone buzzed. Delivery confirmation. 12 p.m. today. Payment on completion as agreed. I stared at a row of dusty boxes through the barn window, old stock, valves, labels yellowed by heat. A 12, a 15, and a 17 numbers that were meaningless to anyone but me. Not proof of anything, just rhythms and routines I'd kept for decades. Farming teaches you the weight of responsibility. It sits low in the ribs like a bruise you stop naming. The pasture sighed in mist and the cattle watched, patient as always. I told myself it was just another morning, another weather system. Endure, tighten the line, fix what breaks. But under my skin something was humming. This wasn't weather. It felt like reckoning. Karen watched me with the clinical half-smile of someone watching an experiment. Somehow she had my schedule, the delivery, the timeline timed perfectly to cause maximum damage. Every detail matched patterns I'd never told anyone. She'd been watching, mapping my routines like a campaign. But the thing that unnerved me most was not her confidence. It was how nervous she seemed. Her hands around that card were white. Instead of predatory satisfaction, I saw fear. "How do you know my schedule?" I asked. She pointed toward my John Deere through the window and spoke in that razor tone she used in HOA meetings. "Tom, I've been HOA president 2 years now, since Danny died. It's my duty to understand what's happening in our community. Those machines, the danger they pose." A notification chimed on her phone. Instead of relief, panic flitted across her face. This wasn't playing out the way she'd rehearsed. She pulled out a second phone. I'd never seen before its screen flashing a live feed. Security footage. Multiple angles. Live timestamps. She was recording everything right now, including us. My skin crawled as I realized the full scale of her plan. How long had she been watching? How deep had she dug into my life? Her shaking stopped. Control returned. She scrolled through a schedule like a drill sergeant. Barn access 6 equipment prep by 7. Hay loading at 8. Her smile came back thin and triumphant. Sound about right, Tom? Every detail was unnervingly exact, the routines I'd followed without thinking, the times I never shared. I felt exposed like a specimen under glass. Karen didn't do things by accident. She wanted me to know she'd done the homework, to make me feel small and predictable. But the part that chilled me was her need to show off how clever she'd been planning it. She wanted me to understand the calculation. She wanted me to know this was deliberate, and that terrified me more than anything else. This wasn't chance anymore. This was months of planning clicking into place like gears. Karen, how do you even know my schedule? I asked again, though my voice betrayed me quieter than I intended. She clutched that business card so tightly her knuckles went white. Tom, she said, I've been HOA president for 2 years, ever since Danny died. It's my responsibility to know what goes on here. Her eyes flicked toward my John Deere through the barn window. Machines like that. So much power. Accidents waiting to happen. Rebecca edged closer, her phone still raised, recording everything for her so-called safety project. Her voice wavered as she added, After my husband's accident 5 years ago, I've documented every potential hazard. Farm equipment can be deadly when people aren't careful. The way she said it made my stomach knot. It was too polished, too rehearsed. Had she and Karen been scheming together? Something dark slid across Karen's face, anger laced with grief, straining against the tight mask she wore. It's about responsibility, Tom, she snapped softly. Some of us understand the consequences better than others. Her composure was cracking. She didn't look like a predator anymore. She looked like someone standing on the edge of something she couldn't control. Another alert buzzed on her phone. This time, instead of triumph, I saw panic. Whatever clock she was running by, it was slipping. What happens if you can't make your deliveries on time, Tom? She asked, voice trembling. The words hit me like a punch. She knew about my contracts, my deadlines, my finances. She knew exactly where to strike. But here's the part that chilled me. She looked terrified of her own question, as if even she wasn't ready for the answer. Then I heard it, the rumble of a diesel engine. My delivery truck pulled in early for inspection. The driver stepped out with his clipboard, casual as could be. Tom, just checking today's load en route. Looks like we're cutting it close with that 1:45 deadline. Karen heard it too. But instead of smug victory, her face twisted into pure fear. The card slipped from her shaking hand and fluttered to the dirt. Marcus Williams, agricultural engineer. The name was underlined, the number called over and over. Tell me, Tom, she whispered. What happens if you can't make that delivery? And suddenly I realized she wasn't trying to ruin me anymore. She was terrified of something she'd already set in motion. Before I could answer, tires crunched on gravel. Deputy Jake Miller's patrol car rolled into my driveway. My relief evaporated the moment I saw the passenger seat. A woman in a dark suit stepped out, clutching a thick manila folder with my name printed across the front. Jake looked miserable, like he wanted to be anywhere else. What's going on here? He asked, but his tone told me he already knew more than he was letting on. Karen seized her chance, her voice loud, dramatic, pointing at my barn and machinery like she was delivering evidence in a courtroom. Jake, I cut in, My patience gone. I've got a critical delivery at 1:45. Her car has been blocking my barn for over an hour. The suited woman whispered something in Miller's ear. His jaw tightened. He turned back to me. Tom, I need to see your current equipment insurance and operating permits. He adjusted his body cam, as if making sure every word was on record. It's not a trap, he added quietly, almost apologetically. It's procedure. An obstruction at a critical access point requires verification. We do this by the book because the last time I didn't, a man didn't make it home from harvest. I won't cross that line again. The weight of his words sank heavy in the silence. I dug through my paperwork, my hands suddenly clammy. And in that moment, I knew exactly what he was about to discover. My insurance had lapsed 3 months ago, and I hadn't renewed it. This was no accident. Months of careful planning had just snapped into place. Karen, how do you know my schedule? I asked again, but my voice sounded small. She gripped the business card so tight her knuckles went white. Tom, I've been HOA president for 2 years, since Danny died. It's my job to know what's happening in our community, she said, eyes drifting to my John Deere through the barn window. Those machines, so much power. Accidents waiting to happen. Rebecca edged in with her phone still recording, voice catching. After my husband's accident, I started documenting hazards. Farm equipment can be deadly if folks aren't careful. The way she said it made me wonder how long she and Karen had been comparing notes. Pain flickered across Karen's face, grief tangled with a hard, dangerous rage. It's about responsibility, she said, voice tight. Some of us understand consequences better than others. Her composed mask was starting to crack. Rather than the predator I expected, she looked fragile, unsteady, and that made my chest tighten. Another notification buzzed on her phone. She didn't look pleased. Whatever timeline she'd been running was slipping. What happens if you can't make your deliveries on time? She asked, voice shaking. The question landed like a punch. She knew my contracts, my deadlines. She knew precisely how to hurt me with minimal effort. Then the delivery truck rolled in early. The driver hopped out, clipboard in hand. Tom, route check. That 1:45 loads tight, he said. Karen heard it. Instead of triumph, terror colored her face. The business card slid from her fingers and fluttered to the dirt. Marcus Williams, agricultural engineer. The number on it had been dialed too many times. You realize what happens if you miss that delivery? She whispered, but now she sounded scared of the answer. Then Deputy Miller's cruiser eased into the driveway. The moment I saw the passenger, my stomach dropped. A woman in a suit stepped out holding a thick manila folder with my name on the front. Jake looked uncomfortable, like he wished he didn't have to be here. What's the situation? He asked, though his tone suggested he already had an inkling. Karen launched into her routine about community safety, gesturing at my barn and equipment like she was presenting evidence in court. Jake, I interrupted, enough. I've got an 1:45 delivery. Her car has been blocking my barn for over an hour. The suited woman bent close to Miller and whispered. His face went hard. Tom, I need to see your equipment insurance and operating permits, he said, toggling his body cam higher. There's a procedure for obstruction at critical access points. We verify coverage before any equipment moves. I do this because someone didn't come home after harvest once. I'm not letting that happen again. His words landed like a weight. I fumbled for my papers, palms sweating. I already knew what he'd find. My insurance had lapsed 3 months ago. Karen watched as Miller flipped through the expired policy and the woman opened her folder, sliding photos and reports across the hood of the car. Her pages were a damning mosaic. Aerial shots, property surveys, line after line of documented complaints. Someone had been building a case against me. Methodically. My phone buzzed again. The hay buyer. Tom, need confirmation for 145. Each ping made Karen flinch. Like a clock striking a bell she'd rather not hear. Jake, this is life or death, I said, pulling the hay contract from my pocket. $8,000 due at 145. If that load didn't move, the bank took the farm. Miller studied both documents, the expired insurance and the contract that was everything I had left. The trap was diabolically simple. Block access at the critical time. Trigger an inspection that grounds operations. Then watch the farmer choose between financial ruin and risking illegal operation. Miller, I asked, voice smaller than I liked. Did she know about my insurance? He looked at Karen. Her smile showed teeth, but there was a desperate tremor beneath it. Officer Miller, I called to report a potential safety violation, she said, though her hand still shook and the business card lay in the dirt like a guilty admission. Woman from the county planning office flipped another page. Mr. Harris, we've received repeated complaints of unpermitted agricultural operations on this property, she said. Photos, historic reports, a pattern laid out in black and white. Then she dropped the real hammer. There's also the matter of the defective equipment you sold 2 years ago. Equipment involved in a fatal accident. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. The pieces slotted into place. Karen's obsession, her timing, the way she'd mapped my life. What did I ever do to deserve this? I asked, bewildered. Karen's mask shredded. Venom and grief poured out. You get to keep running those death machines while my Danny is in the ground because of farmers like you, she spat. Then, with a voice that cut deeper than any accusation, she added, but you're not just any farmer. Tom, you're the farmer. Her words hit like ice. She produced a photo. Danny in a graduation cap, standing by a John Deere, holding diagrams. He died trying to save someone from that model, she said. The implication was brutal and specific. Rebecca lowered her phone. Disgust spread across her face. I stood in that circle of faces, Miller, the planner, the driver, Rebecca, and felt the world tilt. The quiet in the morning had become a trial by a different name. If this touched a nerve, or you've ever been targeted in your own neighborhood, share your story in the comments below. And if you want more raw HOA showdowns, subscribe to Listen HOA Stories. We'll keep digging until the truth comes out. Margaret, using your son's death to punish others. Danny would be ashamed of what you've become. Karen's eyes burned with a fury that had been simmering for 2 years. Don't tell me what my son would think, she shot back. You don't know what it's like to watch your child die because someone was too cheap or careless to maintain their equipment. As the pieces clicked together, the picture they painted made my stomach drop. 2 years earlier, I'd sold used tractor parts to young farmers trying to stretch their budgets. It was normal work moving old inventory and helping the next generation. Apparently, one of those parts failed and Danny Sullivan paid the price. Deputy Miller stepped between us, trying to calm things. Ma'am, I can't imagine your loss, but destroying someone's livelihood won't bring him back. His words were careful, but they poured gasoline on Karen's fury. Won't it stop others from cutting corners? She screamed. Won't it make people think twice before selling unsafe parts to kids? Her accusation landed hard because there was truth in it. I'd sold that valve as is, expecting a mechanic to check it. The planner from the county cleared her throat and slid another page forward. Mr. Harris, records show you sold a hydraulic safety valve to Daniel Sullivan on March 15th, 2 years ago, she said. That valve failed in a rollover on March 20th and Mr. Sullivan died. She handed me a copy of the receipt, my handwriting staring back like an indictment. My hand shook as memories flooded in. Danny had come looking for a valve for a college project, something to retrofit an older tractor with modern safety gear. I remembered him, eager, proud to help. I'd warned him to have it checked and sold him what I had. I remember him, I whispered. Karen's face shifted, not with simple rage now, but with a hard, grim satisfaction. He was trying to save someone, she said. Tears finally appeared, real ones. He designed systems to stop rollovers. He wanted to save lives. Instead, he died because you sold him a faulty part. Her words cut because they carried enough truth to hurt. I hadn't known the valve was defective, but I hadn't verified it either. It was old stock, sold cheap to a kid who seemed to know what he was doing. The kind of deal that happens on farms every day. You didn't care enough to find out, she spat, stepping close. Her perfume and panic filled the air. Do you know what the last thing Danny told his friend Pete was? My world tilted. Pete, the man who'd waved that morning, had been the one who'd been unusually close to Karen these last 2 years, asking about safety and procedures. Karen told us. Danny had said the valve felt loose, but the tractor was already rolling. He chose to try the fix anyway to save Pete. The prototype failed under pressure. Danny was crushed. Pete survived. Miller looked from Karen to me, the implication settling in. Mrs. Sullivan, did you move here to be near Mr. Harris? He asked. She nodded, wiping at her face. I researched him, his farm, his finances, his schedule, his insurance. I wanted him to feel as helpless as Danny did in those last moments. The delivery driver checked his watch. Tom, it's 11 o'clock. If we can't load by noon, I've got to move on. $8,000. My farm's lifeline slipping away while Karen's revenge played out. I stared at Karen's tear-streaked face, at Miller, who couldn't legally let me run uninsured gear, and at the Bentley still blocking the barn. The choice felt impossible. Let Karen's grief destroy my family, or fight the woman who'd spent 2 years engineering my ruin. Tom, Miller said firmly, I can't let you operate without insurance. Rebecca stepped forward, phone raised. Everybody should hear what I recorded this morning, she said. Karen went pale, stumbling backward. Rebecca's next words hit like an explosion. Oh, I recorded everything, Margaret, she said, voice steady. Including where you admitted you knew exactly who Tom was before you moved here. She held up the phone like evidence. Karen's color drained. This was the first real fear I'd seen on her face. Sneaky little bitch, Karen snarled, dropping the pretense of grief. You think your blog and your detective work make you clever? Her mask ripped off. What stood there wasn't a mourning mother, but someone who'd spent 2 years planning psychological warfare and wasn't willing to lose control. Rebecca stayed calm. Public conversation, public evidence, Margaret. You've been loud enough. She tapped the screen. A recording app had been running all morning. Karen snapped. Everything I said is true. He runs death machines and should lose everything. She jabbed a finger at me, hatred blazing in her eyes. Rebecca hit play. Karen's voice filled the yard, recorded and clear. I've been planning this for months, timed it to his delivery deadline. His insurance expired yesterday, and made sure to research every detail. I researched everything about his pathetic operation. This will destroy him financially, and every farmer like him deserves it for what they did to my Danny. But the recording continued, and what came next made everyone except Karen recoil in shock. Her cold laughter filled the air like something from a horror movie. The beautiful part. He'll lose everything on DY's death anniversary. Perfect revenge. These stupid farmers think they're untouchable. Time to teach them otherwise. I've been watching his routine for months, documenting, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Miller's jaw dropped as he heard not grief, but pure malice. This wasn't a mother seeking justice. This was someone who turned her tragedy into a weapon for destroying innocent people. The woman from the planning office started taking notes frantically. clearly realizing that her carefully prepared case might be built on fraudulent complaints. "Mrs. Sullivan," Miller said slowly, "based on this recording, you're now under investigation for filing false reports and deliberate harassment with intent to cause financial harm." He stepped away to radio his supervisor, and I could hear fragments of the conversation. "Premeditated interference, fraudulent safety complaints need immediate removal authority." He shouldered toward the cruiser, one palm cupped over the radio. "Dispatch, Unit 5, body cam active, timestamp 11:31, he said, words clipped. "Professional. We have a documented obstruction at agricultural critical access. Corroborated audio off premeditation. Requesting immediate removal order under harvest interference public safety protocols. Tow arrival time unknown. Window to prevent ancillary economic harm is under 90 minutes. Static." Then, a supervisor's voice that carried the weight of signatures. Miller repeated the key phrases back. "Slower for the record. Order granted. Liability on the obstructing party. Removal to prioritize human safety and time-sensitive commercial necessity." He glanced at Rebecca. "Ma'am, maintain your independent recording. Do not obstruct. Then to me, Mr. Harris, your moves stay inside my directions. We're not making HOAs today. We're making good progress." Karen sank against her Bentley, but she wasn't defeated. She was furious at being caught. "So what if I planned it?" she screamed at Rebecca. "So what if I researched him? He still killed my son. He still sold Danny that defective part. Everything else is just details." But Rebecca wasn't done. She scrolled through her phone and played another clip that made Karen's face go completely white. This one was from earlier in the morning before I'd come outside. "The idiot probably doesn't even remember selling Danny that valve. These farmers sell so much junk they can't keep track of who they're killing. But I remember everything. Every detail, every receipt, every way this man's negligence destroyed my family." The worst part was the satisfaction in her recorded voice, not grief. Satisfaction like she was enjoying the prospect of watching me lose everything. Miller returned from his radio call with news that changed everything. "Mrs. Sullivan, I just spoke with my supervisor in the county attorney's office based on evidence of deliberate harassment, fraudulent complaints, and premeditated with agricultural operations. I have the authority to order immediate vehicle removal. Furthermore," the woman from planning added, checking her own notes, "if these complaints were filed in bad faith, Mr. Harris may have grounds for a civil lawsuit for damages." She closed her folder with a snap that sounded like a gavel falling. "We'll need to review all documentation to determine what was a legitimate safety concern and what was a personal vendetta." Karen's carefully constructed trap was collapsing around her, but she wasn't going quietly. "I don't care what authority you think you have," she shouted at Miller. "This man killed my son, and I'm not moving until faces consequences." She crossed her arms and leaned back against the Bentley like she was prepared for a siege. Miller started taking official photographs of the blocked barn doors, the positioned Bentley, and Karen's defensive posture that proved premeditation. "I'm documenting the scene and circumstances. Mrs. Sullivan, you have 2 minutes to move your vehicle, or I'll have it towed at your expense." My phone rang with what I hoped would be the last interruption of this nightmare morning. The hay buyer, and his voice was tight with frustration. "Tom, it's 11:15. I need confirmation that you can deliver by 1:45 or I am calling my backup supplier right now. This is my finalcle." I looked around at the chaos in my driveway. Karen defiant against her Bentley. Miller documenting evidence. Rebecca still recording everything. The planning office woman taking notes on what was clearly turning into a legal disaster for everyone except me. "Give me 20 minutes, I told the buyer. "I'll be loaded and on the road by noon." Karen heard the conversation and laughed, but it wasn't the calculating Zahn from earlier. This was desperate, unhinged laughter from someone watching their perfect revenge crumble into legal consequences for themselves. "You think this is over?" She called out. "Do you think some recordings changed the fact that you killed my Danny?" "Ma'am," Miller said firmly, "I'm ordering you to move your vehicle immediately under county harassment statutes and agricultural interference laws." He gestured toward his patrol car where the planning office woman was already making phone calls. "Refusal to comply will result in immediate towing and additional charges." Karen looked around at the faces surrounding her. Miller with his hand on his radio. Rebecca with her damning recordings. Me standing by my tractor, ready to solve this problem one way or another. For the first time all morning, she seemed to realize that her position wasn't as strong as she'd thought. "And if I refuse?" she asked, but her defiance was cracking. I gestured toward my John Deere, then looked directly at her with 30 years of farming experience behind my words. "Karen, you've spent months planning to destroy my family's livelihood on the anniversary of your son's death. You researched my finances, documented my routines, and timed this to cause maximum damage. You're not a victim anymore. You're a predator." The truth of those words hit her like a physical blow. And for just a moment, I saw something that might have been shame flicker across her features, but it was immediately replaced by rage and desperation. Karen stood up, walked to her Bentley, and climbed onto the hood with theatrical drama. "Go ahead, you violent farmer. Show everyone what you really are." But as the hydraulic bucket on my tractor started moving toward her precious car, she screamed something that froze everyone in place. "Go ahead and crush it. Just like you crushed my Danny 2 years ago when you sold him that defective tractor part." Karen positioned herself across Bentley's hood like some kind of deranged martyr. But there was nothing noble about what she was doing. This was pure theater designed to make me look like a monster for defending my own livelihood. Her face showed a mixture of rage and sick excitement, like she was finally getting to the climax of a performance she'd been rehearsing for 2 years. "Go ahead," she screamed with genuine glee in her voice. "Prove you're exactly the kind of violent farmer who creates tragedies." Karen's recorded voice turned darker. "His insurance expired yesterday. I checked every detail. This will ruin him financially, and every farmer like him deserves it for what happened to Danny." The next part made everyone but Karen recoil. Her laughter spilled from the phone like something out of a horror film. "The best part? He'll lose everything on my son's death anniversary. Perfect revenge. These farmers think they're untouchable. It's time to show them otherwise. I've been watching him for months, tracking his routine, waiting for the perfect strike." Deputy Miller's jaw dropped. This wasn't justice. It wasn't grief. This was malice sharpened into a weapon. The county planner began scribbling notes, realizing her case might have been built on lies. Miller's voice was firm now. "Mrs. Sullivan, based on this recording, you're under investigation for harassment, falsified complaints, and intentional financial sabotage." He radioed his supervisor reporting, "Body cam active. Timestamp 11:31. Corroborated audio of premeditation. Requesting removal order under harvest interference protocols." The supervisor's voice came back heavy with authority. Miller repeated the order aloud, "Immediate removal. Liability on the obstructing party. Prioritize safety and economic continuity." He turned to Rebecca. "Keep recording," then to me. "Stay under my direction. We're making progress, not martyrs." Karen sagged against her Bentley, but fury burned through her defeat. "So what if I planned it?" she screamed. "He still killed my son with that defective part." Rebecca scrolled on her phone, then played another clip. This one froze Karen cold. It was her own voice from earlier that morning. He probably doesn't even remember selling Danny that valve. These farmers sell so much junk they don't even know who they're killing. But I remember. Every receipt. Every way his negligence destroyed my family. The satisfaction in her tone wasn't grief, it was enjoyment. Miller returned from the call. Mrs. Sullivan, the county attorney, has authorized immediate vehicle removal. On top of that, the planner added, snapping her folder shut, if these complaints were filed in bad faith, Mr. Harris may have grounds for a civil suit. Karen's trap was collapsing, but she wasn't done. I don't care what authority you claim, she snapped. This man killed my son, and I'm not moving. Miller calmly began photographing everything, the Bentley blocking the barn, Karen's stance, the scene itself. You have 2 minutes to move your vehicle, or it will be towed at your expense. My phone buzzed again. The hay buyer's voice was tight. Tom, it's 11:15. If you can't deliver by 1:45, I'm moving on. Last chance. Give me 20 minutes, I told him. I'll be loaded and gone. Karen laughed, not with triumph, but with unhinged desperation. You think this is over? You killed my Danny. Miller's tone hardened. Move your car now or face charges under harassment and agricultural interference laws. Karen looked around. Miller with his radio, Rebecca with her recordings, me standing firm by my tractor. For the first time, cracks showed in her defiance. And if I refuse? She asked. I stared her down. Karen, you've spent months plotting this. You researched my finances, tracked my routines, and staged this for maximum destruction on your son's anniversary. You're not a victim. You're a predator. The words hit her like a physical strike. For a flicker of a moment, shame crossed her face, then rage consumed it. She climbed onto the Bentley's hood with theatrical flair. Go ahead. She shouted. Show everyone what you really are. Crush it, just like you crushed my son when you sold him that valve. She spread herself across the hood like some twisted martyr, her expression a mix of fury and sick excitement. Do it, she screamed. Prove you're the violent farmer who causes tragedies. As the wreckage of her Bentley cooled in the driveway, Marcus revealed something none of us had expected. Danny Sullivan's vision wasn't just a college project. It was a revolution. Licensing deals with John Deere, Case International, and New Holland. Retrofit systems that could save thousands of lives. Multi-million-dollar contracts waiting to be signed. The boy Karen lost wasn't just her son, he was on the verge of changing. American farming forever. Karen's breaking point. Karen's voice cracked, small and childlike, as she looked between the blueprints and my John Deere. This system, would it have saved him? She whispered. Marcus didn't hesitate. It would have saved Danny, and it will save thousands of others. The irony cut like a knife. For 2 years, Karen had tried to destroy farming equipment while her son's greatest dream had been to make it safer. She had weaponized her grief against the very thing Danny lived to protect, the redemption spark. Patent papers spread across my barn door. Safety systems, business plans, cost analyses. Danny had calculated that his innovations could prevent up to 80% of farm fatalities. 80%. Karen's eyes filled with tears, not the rage-filled ones I'd seen before, but something new. Something human. Tom. What if Danny's accident has been trying to teach us something all along? What if instead of using his death to hurt people, we used his life to help them? For the first time, I saw her as a mother, not a predator. The phone rang. Mr. Harris, this is Jennifer from Texas Agricultural University. The Danny Sullivan Safety Foundation has just received its largest donation yet. John Deere had paid $12 million for Danny's rollover system. Case International and New Holland had added another $8 million. From beyond the grave, Danny was revolutionizing the industry he loved. And Karen? She sold the scrap metal from her Bentley, bought a modest Honda, and poured every insurance dollar into the foundation. Her weapon of revenge had become her son's memorial. 2 years later, I stood in my fields watching young farmers install safety retrofits under the Danny Sullivan training program. Karen worked beside me, no longer the woman who tried to destroy my life, but a mother honoring her son's dream. Rebecca's blog had become a nationally recognized safety resource. Marcus was now the foundation's chief technical officer, and every piece of equipment carried a plate. "Protected by Danny Sullivan safety systems," Karen asked me quietly. "Any regrets about that morning?" I looked out at my thriving fields, the retrofitted tractors, the barn doors that still stood. "Just one," I admitted. "That it took nearly losing everything to realize what really mattered." She laughed genuine laughter for the first time in years. And as I read the sign on my barn that morning, Danny Sullivan Foundation, protecting farm families since 2024, I knew the truth. Her revenge had nearly destroyed me, but her son's dream had saved us all. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I traced my fingers over the small safety retrofit plate on the barn door. That simple piece of metal marked the line between destruction and salvation, between grief and hope, between revenge and redemption. At my kitchen table, I held Danny's letter until the daylight disappeared. His careful handwriting revealed truths his mother had ignored for 2 years. He'd known the part was flawed, but he chose to test it anyway because someone's life depended on it. That decision cost him everything, yet it also saved Pete's life and proved the kind of man Danny truly was. A man who valued others above himself. By the end of the second year, the foundation had shattered every expectation. Danny's systems had been installed on more than 800 farms in 12 states, preventing 63 documented accidents, 4 of them almost certainly fatal without his innovations. Insurance companies now offered discounts for farms using Sullivan safety systems, and agricultural colleges were teaching Danny's designs to the next generation of farmers. Karen, once the terror of HOA meetings, had transformed. The woman who used to weaponize grief was now traveling across the Midwest, leading safety workshops, telling her son's story, and pushing for laws that gave struggling farmers the tools they needed to survive. Her crusade to destroy had become a mission to protect. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Her attempt to ruin one family had instead saved thousands. And that's how a $200,000 Bentley learned the hard way. You never go to war with a farmer's livelihood. Karen's revenge turned to rubble, but Danny's legacy rose from the wreckage. Sometimes justice is the crash of a steel bucket against polished German engineering. And sometimes the most broken people find healing in places they least expect. Here at Listen HOA Stories, we believe every feud hides layers, every villain has a history, and every ending leaves us with lessons about community, conflict, and humanity itself. If this story of small-town justice and redemption moved you, hit the like button. Drop a comment about what you think of Karen's transformation. And don't forget to subscribe to Listen HOA Stories for more unbelievable real-life tales. Until next time, thank you for listening.